My name is Brad Stokes, and I'm presenting Idaho Aquifers and you today. Let's get this going. And thanks for joining U of I Together series for week 10. Today, Gail will be helping me, so she will field some questions. And I'm asking that you hold those till the end. If you want to write them in the chat, that would be fantastic. I would love that. So my name is Brad Stokes. I'm the U of I Extension Educator. I'm in Elmore County, which is Mountain Home, Idaho. And today we are talking about Idaho aquifers and you. Here at U of I, we are practical education you can trust. We bring the knowledge and research of the university to you, where you live and when it's convenient for you. Just like these Zoom series, this is great. We're working on food production systems. We have a great 4-H youth development program. We have horticulture and small farms, community development, nutrition, health, and wellness. We have forestry and natural resources, and we have a small water team. And that's kind of convenient because today we're talking about water. I will share with you this quick little video and we'll get started.
University of Idaho Extension is working to ensure a safe and stable supply of water for all Idahoans. From water quality monitoring to watershed ecosystems, irrigation, water management, and hydrology, UI Extension is helping to protect our water for the future.
So that is our great colleague, Jim Eakins, and he is up north in northern Idaho. He's the U of I water specialist for the state. A little bit about myself. I do rural and urban agriculture here in Elmore County. I also do horticulture, so I run a Master Gardener program. I do that once every 2 years. I'm also responsible for 4-H youth development, so I'll participate and judge in shooting sports or help out as fair as needed. And then my real strong suit is I'm an expert in insect and arthropod identification. Some of these quick slides, I'm sweeping for aphids here. I'm attending a corn yield contest there. Here was a few years ago at fair. These are my master gardeners. They help plant plants in the community. These were pots for downtown Mountain Home. And Mountain Home, we are a Bee City USA and a Monarch City USA member. So that's kind of exciting. Today, the outline, I'm going to talk about water. Which is nice and convenient, especially on a 98-degree day. Without water, life cannot go on. It's essential for all carbon life forms. I was going to focus on aquifers, but as I started putting this together, we can't talk about this without talking about reservoirs. I included some forces and properties of water because it's a unique molecule. We put in soil, aquifers, wells, and then aquifer decline, which is occurring right now in Mountain Home and the Treasure Valley. And then I want to talk about drought a little bit, and then mitigation strategies. How can we all come together and help curtail this problem? Last year, I took this photo, and this is a reservoir here in Mountain Home. It's Long Tom Reservoir, and you can kind of see that the existing water line is all the way up here, this kind of crusty white here. And last year we had a severe drought, so we'll talk about that a little bit as well. So water and its properties. It's made from two essential and abundant elements on Earth. We have hydrogen and oxygen. You have 2 hydrogen molecules and 1 oxygen molecule. Water is a polar molecule. So the hydrogens here have this positive charge, and then the oxygen has a negative charge, and they have these unique properties. How do we measure water? It's a little bit interesting because I had to do some research on this myself. Water that is moving, like a river, a stream, is measured in cubic feet per second, or CFS. And this is a way to measure the flow of a river or stream. Water that is stored is measured in acre feet. Now, an acre foot is 1 foot depth of water over the size of an acre, or a football field. So 1 acre foot of water is equal to 325,851 gallons of water. That is a tremendous number. And when we talk about these reservoirs we have in Idaho, you'll see how abundant they become. Some of the reservoirs in southern Idaho, and you can find all this information is really great. The Bureau of Reclamation, Pacific Northwest region, and they list all of these and they tell you how full they are. But a reservoir, I like to start with definitions. It's an artificial lake where water is stored. Most are formed by construction of dams. The main purpose is hydroelectrical power and management of water. And here we have Cascade. I think a lot of people have been to Cascade Reservoir. Where I am in Elmore County, we have Anderson Ranch Reservoir, we have Lucky Peak, we have Arrow Rock, and we also have some Mountain Home reservoirs right over here that are not shown. At least in southern Idaho, i.e. Lucky Peak and Anderson, we're pretty full right now. Cascade is pretty full. Arrow Rock is declining. I didn't put in the Magic Valley system, but that is also found on the Bureau of Reclamation site, and it's quite interesting just to take a peek statewide. And I was going to focus a little bit on Mountain Home in Elmore County because that's what I know. Elmore County, we have several reservoirs. We have Anderson Ranch. Now that holds 413,100 acre feet of water. I did some calculations, I think it was a couple months ago, and it comes out to, I believe it was 1.26 billion gallons, which is amazing. And then we have Arrow Rock, 272,000 acre feet, Lucky Peak. And then we get into these smaller systems. Little Camas, we have Long Tom. Now Long Tom holds 3,700 acre feet. That was that first photo on the opening slide. And then we have Mountain Home Reservoir at 5,400 acre feet. Elmore County right now is actually trying to get another 10,000 acre feet through the South Fork Boise River Diversion Project. So that's quite unique. The other thing that's interesting about Elmore County is we feed a lot of water that goes into Ada County, Canyon County, Owyhee County even. So we hold a lot of water here in Elmore County. Western drought in Lake Mead. I think everyone's seen some of these great videos of Lake Mead over the last probably several weeks, months, or even a year. It's no secret that the West United States is going through a drought right now. We will talk about what these means, what these letters and designations mean, but you can see Southern Idaho is in a drought, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, and moving south, and especially California. Lake Mead was created by Hoover Dam, and you can just see this picture was taken last July in 2021. And you can just see the decline in that water level. So water will be our new precious blue gold, as I'll call it later. So some more about water forces and properties. Gravity is going to pull the water downward into the soil profile, hence the aquifer. It highly depends upon the slope of the landscape. And we have these other three forces here. Adhesion is the attraction of water molecules for the soil solids, the matrix, and that's the positive and negative charges within the soil itself. This is a glass of Coke here, and you can see that water is adhesing to the side. And then you have cohesion. This is the attraction of water molecules to each other because they have those two positive charges and one negative charge. And then the third one is osmotic forces, and that's the attraction of water molecules for solutes, or cations and ions. Soil and water. I always like soil and water. It's a really complicated matrix, but water is essentially held within the pore space of the soil itself. And the water holding capacity depends on the pore space and the amount of water itself, or the saturation, and the attraction of H2O to soil particles itself. And within this matrix, you have a lot of positive charges, but you have more negative charges, and this is called the cation exchange capacity. Soil contains hundreds of dissolved organic and inorganic compounds, more accurately called the soil solution, and this is going to make up the aquifer itself, okay? And within the upper layers of the crust, it's going to hold a lot of nutrients for plants to grow, for agriculture, for livestock, for all the things that we depend on as humans. Okay, aquifers. The definition of an aquifer: it's an underground layer of water-bearing permeable rock, rock fractures, or unconsolidated materials. The unconsolidated materials is gravel, sand, and silt. And through doing some of this research, there are several types of aquifers, and I didn't know that, so that was pretty interesting. Aquifers vary in size and characteristics. They depend upon the landscape, the stuff we can see, and the soil profile, the things we cannot see. They have an unconfined and confined. That's a way to classify them. The unconfined aquifers are the upper boundary, and that's the water table itself. And then confined aquifers are going to be between soil layers. Usually you might have a clay layer, and then a bunch of water, and then another clay layer, and that would be a confined aquifer. It is important too to note that aquifers have movement across vast distances. And the important part of the soil here is it is cleaning the water chemically as it permeates downwards. And generally speaking, clay is the best for cleaning because it has that higher cation exchange capacity than other soil textures. The other soil textures are going to be the sand and the silt. Okay. So here's some aquifer diagrams right here. The top one right here is an unconfined aquifer, and it has that water table, right? You have a pumped well over here, and then you have this layer of confining bed, and then this would be the confined aquifer below. And then there's another bed, and then another confined aquifer. You have recharge areas, and these are often gravel pits, and generally landscapes that have depressions are where the recharge is going to go. Then you have discharge areas, and that's going to be your streams, your rivers, stuff like that. And I really like this diagram right here, where you have the well going down into the aquifer to get water to the house. Okay, a little bit about cation exchange capacity. That's that CEC I was talking about that clay is very good at. A cation is a positively charged ion, and CEC is the total amount of cations the soil can retain. So most soils are negatively charged, generally speaking, and a higher CEC means there are more nutrients, which is good for plants, and cleaning capabilities for aquifer and groundwater, which is really important. CEC increases as the clay percent increases, organic matter increases, and soil pH increases, and that's just to a point. And over here, you can see the soil particle, and you see all these little sites around it. These are the negative charges, and that's going to be the CEC. Okay, wells. Without aquifers, we got to talk about wells. The definition of a well is an excavation or structure created in the ground by digging, driving, or drilling to access liquid resources. This includes gas, oil, but in this aspect, we're talking about water wells. They vary in size and characteristics, and it depends on the landscape and the end use, okay? The depth of wells, they can actually range anywhere from 50 feet if you have a really shallow water table. So over in Hammett and Glens Ferry, which is within Elmore County, they're only drilling to 70 feet to get to their water. And then some wells need to go to over 1,000 feet. It really, really depends on the aquifer, the soil, and everything in between. I love these two diagrams. The one on the left is a little more messy, but the one on the right is really good. So we'll talk about the one on the right. This would be your average home right here, or county resident if they have their own well. Important part here is the pressure tank, and this is going to build up pressure for water within the use of that home and the landscape. You have your well right here. You have your well casing, and this can be concrete. A lot of them are steel these days. And then you have your submersible pump, and that is going below that water line. And then you often have this gravel screen. And this is how most people get groundwater or water for irrigation purposes, especially in Idaho. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Mountain Home Plateau Aquifer. It's quite a vast aquifer, actually. So this is all of southern Idaho. And I'm talking right here, this red part. This is a Pliocene aquifer. And right now it does feed to the west into Canyon and Ada County, Owyhee County, etc. On the left here, this was a diagram I got from, I think it was Idaho Water Resource Board, and they talk about the big aquifers within Idaho itself. So we have a lot of these big giant river basins. Myself and the Mountain Home Plateau Aquifer are within the Boise River Basin, but we have closed basins here. The Salmon River Basin is a gigantic one, holds a lot of water. We have the Clearwater River Basin, Coeur d'Alene, Clark Fork, Kootenai River Basin up north where Gale is. And then down here in between Idaho and Oregon, we have the Owyhee River Basin. So there's been a lot of research done on these aquifers and these systems. It's really interesting to take note of all this. So why does this matter though? Why do aquifers matter? Why do wells matter? Why do reservoirs matter? Aquifers themselves provide essential water for numerous purposes. We got crops, we got livestock, we got gardens, landscapes, households, and municipalities themselves, okay? The other thing that's really important to note, numerous wells have been drying up because of aquifer declines in recent years. Cover this more on the next slide. The next logical question would be, why do they dry up, Mr. Stokes? That is a good question. We're not getting as much recharge, but there's other things that are factoring in. The continuing thought that I always have is we are all in this together. We are a community. And we need to all take part in mitigating water use. So aquifer decline, the cause of this. With the wells, here's what really happens. So you drill your well, you have your pump down here, you get something called the cone of depression. And that is the drawdown from the pump in the surrounding area of the aquifer. So if I had a well right next to here, it only went down right here. It can overlap each other and they can be synergistic and they will both draw down. The other thing is that it draws down at a radius. So think of about a circle, and that radius gradually increases over 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years. And it's continual as people are pumping from their well. So that is what's happening. And we call this area the zone of influence, which is quite interesting. Other things about aquifer decline. I have this great chart on the right. This is groundwater level declines at Cinder Cone Butte. This is an aquifer that's just between Elmore and Ada County. It still is in Elmore County, but we have data going back to about 1977, I believe. And they have been monitoring these, and we're looking at 3 to 5 feet per year, the aquifer is declining. Now, Idaho Department of Water Resource Board and I think it's Bureau of Reclamation, they do watch this. A lot of wells right now or aquifers are declining about a foot a year. This cinder cone butte is a little bit more extreme, but also groundwater irrigated areas for lots of use occur all over. So here within Mountain Home, we have some on the north. We have quite a few on the south. These are county residents. We have the Air Force Base right here, and then south west of us near Grandview, we have more irrigated areas. This circle right here is that Cinder Cone Butte area, again, right on that county line, and we're seeing drastic declines in that aquifer. So it's kind of scary. And I think a lot of you have probably seen some of these news stories come up. These were last year. They were just talking about some Boise wells are drying up amid rapid development. What's going on? You see the neighborhood struggles with private wells. Lake Lowell community concerns after 10 wells go dry in July. Development continues. So this is becoming a really major hot topic, at least in southern Idaho right now. Water uses in Idaho. We need to talk about uses, which is interesting. Actually, this is old data, but it's still applicable. This is from 2015, and withdrawals, quite a bit is groundwater. So we're talking about, looks like, 28% right there, but it's a lot. So they're talking 5,353 million gallons per day. That is in million gallons per day. We got crops up here. We got aquaculture, industrial use, livestock use, public supply. That's the municipalities there. Self-supplied domestic wells. Those are going to be usually county residents in Idaho. They are pumping quite a bit. No surface water there. We have mining, and then golf courses, right? Lots of use of water. Agriculture and water. Crops need water. It's important. It's critical for photosynthesis and yield. Our crops need a minimum of 20 inches of irrigation per season, and that can go drastically up depending on the crop. They talk about evapotranspiration and the needs. From this graph, you should just know it needs more water when it gets hot. That's not rocket science. And then I saw some great stuff about food items and the gallons of water per unit. And I thought that was interesting. So the unit on all these is 1 pound, right? To produce 1 pound of chocolate, you need 288 gallons. That's quite interesting. And for 1 pound of lettuce, it's 16 gallons. So you could go into detail there. Some of the other food items, Serene's gonna hate me for these. Chicken, beef, cheese, milk. The bad one is beef. So sorry, Scott, over in Hawaii County. You need 1,857 gallons of water for 1 pound of beef, which is quite interesting. Coffee is weird too. So you need 37 gallons for a little 4-ounce cup. I did want to mention entomophagy because I try and throw this in a little bit. Eating insects, why? There's lots of reasons. We'll skip about these, but it's really about input sources are very low. And in this talk, water is key. This slide is the good one. So we're just talking about water in feed. This blue graph is the number of water for what, 2.2 pounds of the end use product. Look at beef, you got a lot of feed there. And then for crickets, you got literally 0 water. So it's kind of interesting. To produce 2.2 pounds of crickets, it would be less than 1 liter of water. So that's quite interesting. Okay, let's talk about drought a little bit. I'm going a little over. Drought, it's an event of prolonged shortages in the water supply, whether it's atmospheric, surface water related, and or groundwater. Droughts can last for months and or years. They may be declared based on local government entities. That can be the county and or the state. For Idaho, we have the Idaho Drought Committee. I meet with them and we talk about water supply levels and recommendations for the federal government. We do have a National Drought Mitigation Center, and this is a federal organization, and they have 5 statuses for the drought itself, from abnormally dry to exceptional dry. And they base this on irrigation demand, crop and livestock demand, the snowpack, what's in the mountains and what we think might melt, and other stressors, including fire danger. So this big map on the right, this was produced August 2nd. So that was like a week ago. And it's Idaho's drought monitor. Southern Idaho is experiencing a drought right now. Most of it's abnormally dry, some of it's moderate, but down in here we get into extreme drought. This is much better than last year, though. You can see the one from June 8th of 2021. The entire state was in a drought. So we're getting a little bit better. And my thoughts here, since we're all in this together, there are some ways to conserve water. I would recommend this first step right here. If you're going to save water, first you have to know, how much do you use? What is your water footprint, if you will? So if you go online and type this in, this is the water calculator, and it's great. They go through how many times you flush, how many times you use laundry, dishwasher, irrigate your lawn. Do you leave the faucet on when you're brushing your teeth, or do you take 35-minute showers? Some of the things they recommend are reducing indoor home use. And when we talk about that, we're not talking about one house, right? I'm talking about thousands and thousands of houses, because if thousands of households can do that, it's going to make a big impact. Reducing outdoor landscape use. So watering wisely and the timing is critical. Every time I'm driving around, I see people that are irrigating midday when it's 100 degrees, and my mind goes crazy because I say, you got to water at night. So I recommend watering between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. The use of Xeriscape landscape plants. These are native, drought-tolerant plants. Can be very, very good. And again, it's the impact over a large area. Consider the diet. So if I just go home and eat lettuce, and Serene goes home and eats steak every night, she needs 1,857 gallons per pound of steak, whereas I need 16 gallons per pound of lettuce. So certain food items will require more water, and that's inherent. Recharge. This is going to be the thing that will really pick up in the next decade or two, I believe. And aquifer recharge is becoming more and more prominent. You're going to see counties, cities, possibly states themselves put in gravel pits, runoff is diverted. And we've done that here in Mountain Home in Elmore County, and the public is very happy with that. Last thing is get informed. One of the great documentaries is this Blue Gold. It's World Water Wars. I got this little screenshot from PBS, but it's a free documentary. They go about explaining what's going on with humans and water, and it will be valuable into the future. So with that, I have no other thing to say. I'll take some questions though, if there are some.